Welcome to Ian Cinema, your destination for endless entertainment and unforgettable movie moments. Discover exciting films, inspiring stories, and cinematic journeys across every genre. Whether you love action, drama, thrillers, or timeless favorites, there's always something waiting for you here. Sit back, enjoy the experience, and let Ian Cinema bring the magic of movies to your screen. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider, also known simply as Tomb Raider, is a 2001 action-adventure thriller based on the popular Tomb Raider video game series. Although the film received mixed to negative reviews from critics, it was a major commercial success. As of June 16, 2010, it remained the highest-grossing video game adaptation at the domestic box office. Its worldwide record was later surpassed by Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, which earned approximately $335 million worldwide by October 10, 2010. The film opens with Lara Croft, played by Angelina Jolie, exploring an ancient Egyptian tomb in search of a mysterious diamond hidden inside a large chamber. As she approaches the artifact, she is suddenly attacked by a giant robot guardian. After an intense chase and action-packed battle, Lara defeats the machine by ripping out its central control circuit. She retrieves the diamond, only to discover that it is actually a disguised memory device. Hidden inside is a small computer containing valuable information. As classical Japanese music plays in the background, the scene takes an unexpected turn. It is revealed that the entire sequence was a training exercise inside Lara Croft's private combat arena, where her assistant, Bryce, had programmed the robot to challenge her skills. Meanwhile, it is the day of the first planetary alignment, a rare celestial event that reaches its peak during a solar eclipse. This extraordinary alignment occurs only once every 5,000 years, and the secret society known as the Illuminati is determined to use the event to carry out its mysterious plan, to reunite the two halves of the Triangle of Light. The final phase of the alignment must be completed. An Illuminati member confidently claims that everything is almost ready, but in reality, he has no idea where to find the key. Meanwhile, Alex West tries to interest Lara Croft in several new projects, but she pays little attention to them. On May 15, Lara reflects on the day her father disappeared many years ago. Although she has gradually come to terms with his loss, she has never truly stopped wondering what happened to him. Because the mysterious device resembles an elaborate clock, Lara consults Mr. Wilson, a clock expert and an old friend of her father. She believes the mechanism may be connected to the legendary Triangle of Light, but Wilson has no knowledge of either the clock or the ancient artifact. It had been nearly 2 decades since Angelina Jolie first brought Lara Croft to life on the big screen. Following the lukewarm reception of Lara Croft, Tomb Raider at the Cradle of Life, it seemed the film franchise had reached its end. However, the 2013 Tomb Raider video game reboot, followed by Rise of the Tomb Raider in 2015, breathed new life into the beloved series. Just a few years later, a brand new Tomb Raider movie arrived to introduce Lara Croft to a new generation of moviegoers. Starring Academy Award winner Alicia Vikander, the film serves as the beginning of a fresh cinematic franchise. Unlike the earlier films, this version draws heavily from the 2013 video game, with many of its key story elements adapted directly from the reboot. The movie also works as an origin story, showing audiences who Lara Croft was before becoming the fearless adventurer known around the world. While the film introduces familiar villains and themes from the games, its primary focus is Lara's transformation from any ordinary bike career into the legendary Tomb Raider. So, how does everything come together? Let's break down the ending of the 2018 Tomb Raider film. Richard Croft's disappearance plays a vital role in the story. His absence not only creates the central mystery but also shapes Lara's personality. Instead of following in her father's footsteps or taking control of the Croft family business, She chooses to live life on her own terms. However, when she is finally called to sign the legal documents declaring her father dead and assume control of the family estate, she discovers a hidden message in Richard's office that suggests he may still be alive. Unable to accept that mystery, Lara follows the clues her father left behind. Her search leads her to a remote island where she hopes to uncover the truth. In the process, she finally gains the answers she has been searching for all these years. The film changes several major elements from the 2013 Tomb Raider game. One of the biggest differences involves Matthias Vogel. In the game, the character is named Matthias and arrived on the island decades earlier. Over time, isolation drove him to believe that the Sun Queen Himiko controlled the island's supernatural storms. Convinced that sacrificing one of Himiko's descendants was the only way to escape, he became increasingly dangerous. In the game, Lara's close friend Sam Nishimura becomes his intended sacrifice. The 2018 film takes a different approach. Vogel, played by Walton Goggins, is portrayed as a mercenary working for the secret organization Trinity. Instead of being stranded for decades, he has spent only 7 years on the island. Even so, the isolation has taken a heavy psychological toll. He has lost precious years of his life and longs to return to the wife and daughter he left behind. Vogel explains that his mission is simple: locate Himiko's tomb and recover its secrets. However, after years of failure, his desperation has turned into obsession. This emotional conflict gives the character more depth, making him both sympathetic and threatening at the same time. The legend of Queen Himiko, the powerful Sun Queen, remains central to both the 2013 game and the 2018 film. In the game, Himiko's supernatural powers are closely tied to the deadly storms surrounding the island, creating a constant threat throughout Lara's journey. The movie presents Himiko somewhat differently. Rather than focusing on supernatural forces, it introduces her as the subject of Richard Croft's final investigation before his disappearance. Lara's search for her father ultimately brings her to the island, where Vogel sees her arrival as his only chance to return home. According to him, all Lara has to do is open Himiko's tomb, something his team has failed to accomplish despite 7 years of relentless effort. The legend of Himiko reveals that her immortal soul became trapped within the burned remains of Hasi, a young girl whose body was intended to serve as Himiko's new vessel. For Lara, reuniting with her father is one of the story's most emotional moments. Discovering that Richard Croft is still alive gives her renewed hope after years of believing she had lost him forever. This revelation also uncovers the shared history between Richard Croft and Matthias Vogel. Both men have spent years searching for the hidden tomb that is believed to contain a dangerous supernatural power. Similar to the 2013 Tomb Raider video game and its sequel, Richard's appearances throughout the story fill in important gaps in Lara's past while also moving the narrative forward. In the 2018 film, he serves not only as Lara's mentor but also as the father who completes her transformation into the fearless adventurer she is destined to become. Once inside Himiko's tomb, Lara and Richard discover the horrifying truth. Richard has been hiding within the ancient ruins to prevent anyone from unleashing the deadly force sealed inside. During the confrontation, he is stabbed while protecting Lara and is exposed to Himiko's infected remains. Although Vogel manages to escape with a sample of the Queen's remains, Richard is far less fortunate. The infection begins to spread through his body, turning him into the latest victim of Himiko's deadly curse. Knowing there is no cure, Richard shares an emotional farewell with Lara before making the ultimate sacrifice. He detonates explosives inside the tomb, destroying both himself and Himiko's remains. His sacrifice prevents the infection from spreading across the world and ensures that the terrifying power hidden within the tomb dies with him. When we first meet Matthias Vogel, he is completely consumed by the mission that has trapped him on Yamatai Island for 7 long years. Working for the mysterious organization known as Trinity, Vogel is determined to unlock Himiko's power at any cost. Although Trinity is only briefly referenced throughout most of the film, The third act offers viewers their first real glimpse into the organization's sinister ambitions, after Lara and Richard realize that Himiko's remains contain a deadly virus capable of transforming people into zombie-like creatures. Trinity's true objective becomes clear. They intend to weaponize this ancient power in pursuit of global domination. Richard's sacrifice prevents their plan from succeeding, but it also hints that Trinity's ambitions extend far beyond Yamatai. The organization is willing to cross any line to obtain ultimate power, making it clear that they will become an even greater threat in future adventures. Lara's journey throughout the film is ultimately one of transformation. At the beginning, she is an ordinary 21-year-old woman who has no interest in embracing the Croft family legacy. However, everything changes once she sets out to uncover the truth about her father's disappearance. Halfway through the film, Lara is attacked by one of Vogel's mercenaries. During the struggle, she is forced to take a life for the first time. The emotional impact of this moment weighs heavily on her and marks an important turning point in her development. She faces an even greater challenge during the film's climax when Vogel attempts to escape with Himiko's remains. Refusing to let him unleash the deadly infection, Lara confronts him in a brutal battle as the ancient tomb collapses around them. Driven by determination rather than fear, she forces the infected remains into Vogel's mouth before kicking him off a cliff, where he succumbs to the infection. Immediately afterward, Lara makes an incredible leap across the collapsing ruins, using her signature climbing axes to survive. The image of her pulling herself from the rubble, exhausted but victorious, perfectly symbolizes her transformation into the legendary Tomb Raider. After surviving the adventure and losing her father once again, Lara returns home to Croft Holdings. This time, she finally signs the paperwork accepting responsibility for the family business. It represents a major step forward and reflects her newfound confidence as both a capable adventurer and a stronger, more independent woman. Although Matthias Vogel has been defeated, Lara realizes he was only one piece of a much larger conspiracy. As she explores Richard's hidden bunker, she begins uncovering clues that suggest Trinity's influence reaches much further than she ever imagined. She also becomes suspicious of Anna Miller, one of Richard Croft's closest associates. While Anne appears to be a loyal employee, her actions throughout the story raise questions about her true motives. The film leaves several mysteries unresolved. Who exactly is Trinity? Why were they so determined to obtain Himiko's power? And what role does Anna truly play within the organization? While these questions remain unanswered, the ending strongly hints that they will become central to the next chapter of Lara's story. Fans of the Tomb Raider games will recognize these plot threads from Rise of the Tomb Raider. In the game, Anna is revealed to have a much deeper connection to Trinity and shares a complicated history with Richard Croft. Her loyalty ultimately lies with the organization, and she plays a significant role in the events that follow. The film clearly lays the foundation for adapting that storyline in a future sequel. Following her adventure, Lara returns to her father's secret bunker, where she discovers more of Richard's research along with additional documents connected to Trinity. She also reunites with Max, whose brief appearances throughout the film provide moments of humor and warmth. As the credits approach, viewers see that Max has successfully acquired a pair of pistols, subtly hinting that he and his wife Pamela may help equip Lara for future missions. The movie concludes with a moment fans had been waiting for. Lara finally claims her iconic dual pistols, fully embracing the identity of the Tomb Raider. It's a satisfying ending that clearly points toward bigger adventures yet to come. Thrillers can be difficult to define because they often blend elements from many different genres, including action, mystery, crime, political drama, psychological suspense, and historical adventure. At their core, however, thrillers are designed to create tension, excitement, and uncertainty that keep audiences fully engaged. Some thrillers rely on spectacular action sequences or dangerous criminal conspiracies, while others build suspense through psychological conflict or complex relationships between characters. Whatever approach they take, the goal remains the same: to keep viewers constantly wondering what will happen next. Fast pacing, unexpected twists, and rising tension drive the story forward, ensuring the audience remains invested from beginning to end. Although some critics argued that the film borrowed familiar ideas from earlier adventure movies, its exciting action, emotional character arc, and entertaining treasure-hunting adventure have helped it earn appreciation from many viewers. Like classic adventure thrillers centered around stolen treasures, dangerous criminals, and high-stakes pursuits, Tomb Raider delivers an engaging blend of suspense, action, and mystery that keeps audiences entertained throughout. Together, these elements create a thrilling, action-packed spy adventure with plenty of humor. The Man from U.N.C.L.E. is far more than a conventional espionage film. Its stylish direction, charismatic leads, and sharp storytelling are set against one of history's most tense periods at the height of the Cold War. The story follows a CIA agent and a former professional thief who reluctantly join forces after uncovering a dangerous plot involving a nuclear weapon. Like many classic spy thrillers, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. embraces the exciting idea that the fate of the world can rest in the hands of a small team of highly skilled individuals. What makes Civil War particularly compelling is that it isn't simply about a nation divided by political ideology. Instead, it focuses on the responsibility of journalists as they document conflict and reveal the truth from the front lines. Back in the late 1990s, before Lara Croft dominated video game adaptations, television introduced another adventurous heroine, Sydney Fox from Relic Hunter. The action-adventure series starred Tia Carrere as Sydney, a fearless archaeologist who traveled the globe with her assistant Nigel Bailey, while Gloria occasionally joined the team on their dangerous expeditions. Naturally, comparisons to Lara Croft were inevitable. While Sydney shared the adventurous spirit of the iconic Tomb Raider, she felt more grounded and believable. Unlike the exaggerated proportions of the video game heroine, Sydney came across as a capable archaeologist rather than a fantasy character. Carrere has even mentioned that she drew inspiration from several fictional archaeologists when shaping her performance. Although Relic Hunter reached live-action television before the first Tomb Raider movie, it still faced intense competition from the growing number of female-led action series of the era, including Xena, Warrior Princess. The first live-action Tomb Raider film finally arrived in 2001, starring Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft. Despite frequent comparisons between the two franchises, Carrere often joked that there was room for both characters, as each offered audiences a different style of adventure. Not every superhero television series has enjoyed the same level of success as hits like The X-Men or Smallville. A poor adaptation can damage both the character's reputation and the chances of future adaptations for years to come, whether it's due to a lack of faithfulness to the source material, questionable casting, weak visual effects, network interference, or poor writing. Some superhero shows simply fail to deliver, with recent reports suggesting that Jimmy Olsen could receive his own spin-off series in the new DC universe. It's the perfect time to revisit some of the superhero TV shows that failed to meet expectations. One of the most disappointing examples is Blade, the series. After Blade, Trinity became widely regarded as the weakest film in the trilogy. Many expected the franchise to take a break. Instead, it returned in 2006 as a television series. Wesley Snipes was replaced by rapper Sticky Fingaz, who portrayed Blade for the show's single season. The series follows Blade as he battles vampires while working alongside Krista Starr, a former soldier searching for answers about her twin brother's mysterious death. While Blade's comic-accurate hairstyle was an interesting change, Sticky Fingaz never fully captured the screen presence that Wesley Snipes brought to the role. Although the action and story have their moments, the series often feels like a low-budget version of the films. In 2023, Gotham Knights premiered on the CW shortly after the release of the video game bearing the same name. Rather than focusing on Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, or Red Hood, the series takes place after Bruce Wayne's death. His adopted son Turner Hayes is framed for the billionaire's murder alongside several unlikely allies. forcing them to uncover the real killer while proving their innocence. Although Gotham Knights borrows elements from Batman mythology, its execution struggles with inconsistent writing and questionable creative decisions, introducing a brand new adopted son instead of using established characters like Damian Wayne divided fans from the beginning. Even so, Misha Collins received praise for his performance as Harvey Dent, and many viewers were interested in seeing his eventual transformation into Two-Face. Unfortunately, critics and audiences were less impressed with the series overall. It earned a 27% critics score and a 44% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes before being cancelled after just one season. Another disappointing adaptation was Birds of Prey. While the team has featured members such as Huntress, Black Canary, and Batgirl in the comics, the television version struggled because of its writing and unnecessary changes to the characters' histories. The show takes place after Batman has disappeared, leaving Oracle and Huntress to protect New Gotham. Several creative choices left longtime fans confused, including major alterations to Black Canary's character and unnecessary changes to established comic book lore. Since Batman and the Joker were largely absent due to licensing restrictions, the series often felt like it was building towards something that never fully materialized. One of Marvel's greatest successes is Captain America: The Winter Soldier, a mature political thriller that explores themes of surveillance, freedom, and trust. Disney Plus's Secret Invasion initially appeared to follow a similar path as Nick Fury until Lois uncovered a Skrull conspiracy threatening Earth. The early episodes raised fascinating moral questions about the Skrulls' treatment on Earth and whether humanity had failed to honor its promises. The shocking death of a major MCU character also suggested that the series would take bold creative risks. Unfortunately, the momentum quickly faded. Secret Invasion slowed to a crawl, lost focus, and failed to capitalize on its intriguing premise. Compared to the acclaimed comic storyline that inspired it, the series felt surprisingly underwhelming, despite starring Samuel L. Jackson and carrying the Marvel Studios brand. It ultimately came across as filler content designed to bridge the gap between larger MCU projects. Another major disappointment was Iron Fist. In Marvel Comics, Danny Rand is one of the world's greatest martial artists, making him an incredibly formidable hero. However, Netflix's adaptation struggled to bring that reputation to life. It was evident that lead actor Finn Jones had limited martial arts experience before filming, and the action sequences suffered as a result. Reports also suggested that a trained martial artist who auditioned for the role was ultimately passed over. Beyond the action, the writing and characterization failed to make Danny Rand a compelling protagonist, with many viewers finding supporting characters more interesting than the hero himself. Now that Marvel Studios has begun bringing Netflix characters like Daredevil into the MCU, Iron Fist could eventually receive another chance. If that happens, the character will need significant redevelopment, as the original series remains one of the weakest entries among the Defenders shows. TV Line even ranked it among the worst television series of 2017. Finally, there's Painkiller Jane, a lesser-known comic book adaptation. The story follows police officer Jane Vasco, who discovers she possesses extraordinary regenerative abilities after surviving what should have been a fatal incident. She leaves behind her career in law enforcement and embraces a new life as the superpowered vigilante known as Painkiller Jane. The 2007 television adaptation follows a similar premise, with Jane joining a secret government organization dedicated to tracking genetically altered individuals who possess dangerous superhuman abilities. One of the biggest problems with Painkiller Jane is that it starts with a genuinely intriguing premise but quickly loses its sense of direction. The series grabs your attention early on, yet it struggles to decide what kind of story it wants to tell. As a result, its single 22-episode season feels overly long and unfocused. Weak dialogue, underdeveloped characters, and a noticeable lack of chemistry among the cast make it even harder to stay invested. The adaptation also differs significantly from both the original comic book and the earlier TV movie. In this version, Jane's character is portrayed quite differently, leaving longtime fans disappointed. Before the television series, a short-lived YouTube-style movie based on the character Black Scorpion attempted to capitalize on the growing popularity of superhero entertainment, but it failed to make any real impact. Writers and producers later revived the concept as a television series in 2001. Unlike the earlier film, the TV version featured a new actress in the lead role. Black Scorpion was essentially a modern take on the classic 1960s Batman television series, even featuring Adam West in a memorable villainous role. The story follows a police officer whose life changes after her father is murdered by criminals. She adopts the identity of Black Scorpion to fight crime and seek justice. While the concept is entertaining at first, stretching it across 22 episodes causes the novelty to wear off. This is another example of a premise that works well as a movie but becomes repetitive as a full television series. Eventually, the campy tone loses the charm that initially made it appealing. Have you ever watched a show that felt like it was trying to be something else? That's exactly the experience of Mutant X. The series, which aired from 2001 to 2004, follows a scientist who creates a safe haven where mutants can learn to control their extraordinary abilities. These mutants can teleport, manipulate electricity, possess animal-like instincts, and even bend light. Sound familiar? It certainly reminded audiences of the X-Men, and 20th Century Fox thought the same. Since Fox owned the live-action rights to the X-Men franchise, it sued the companies behind Mutant X, arguing that the series was too similar to Marvel's famous mutant universe. Although the lawsuit was eventually settled, the comparisons never disappeared. To many viewers, Mutant X felt less like an original superhero series and more like an imitation of X-Men. Inspiration may be flattering, but in this case, the similarities were impossible to ignore. Then there's Nightman, a superhero many casual comic fans have never heard of. Created by Steve Englehart and Rick Hoberg during the 1990s. The character surprisingly received the live-action television series that ran for 2 seasons between 1997 and 1999. The story centers on jazz musician Johnny Domino, who is struck by lightning. The accident leaves him unable to sleep, but it also grants him the supernatural ability to sense evil thoughts. Wearing a specialized suit that enhances his powers, he becomes Nightman, using his abilities to stop criminals before they commit their crimes. Unfortunately, the late 1990s weren't the best era for comic book adaptations. Television networks rarely invested serious budgets or creative effort into superhero projects, and Nightman clearly reflects those limitations. The costume looks cheap, as if it came from a bargain bin costume shop, and the visual effects are equally unconvincing. Better writing and stronger performances could have compensated for those shortcomings, but the series falls short in nearly every department. Marvel hoped Inhumans would become its next major franchise during the 2010s. With the X-Men film rights tied up elsewhere, many believed the Inhumans could fill that superhero void. Excitement grew after Marvel announced plans for a live-action adaptation, especially with talented actors cast as members of the Inhuman royal family. Sadly, the finished series failed to live up to expectations. The visual effects and costumes looked surprisingly inexpensive, despite the characters possessing extraordinary powers in the comics. The storytelling was equally disappointing. Instead of introducing viewers to these relatively unknown heroes through a focused narrative, the show attempted to juggle too many characters and storylines at once. New audiences barely had time to understand who these characters were before being overwhelmed with unnecessary plot developments, making it difficult to form any emotional connection. One show that succeeded where others struggled was Relic Hunter. Tia Carrere's Sydney Fox was a charismatic, adventurous heroine whose personality made her instantly likable. As critic Gary noted, Sydney felt like a believable adventurer rather than an unrealistic fantasy figure. Carrere herself revealed that she modeled the character after Indiana Jones, explaining that she had always admired Harrison Ford's iconic adventurer. Although Relic Hunter reached television before Tomb Raider arrived in theaters, it faced stiff competition from numerous action series led by female heroes, including Xena, Warrior Princess. When Lara Croft, Tomb Raider premiered in 2001 starring Angelina Jolie, comparisons between the two characters became inevitable. Carrere, however, dismissed the rivalry with good humor, joking that Angelina Jolie's tattoos were far more intimidating than any competition. The 2018 Tomb Raider reboot took a completely different approach, drawing inspiration from the 2013 video game reboot rather than the earlier Angelina Jolie films. Video game movies have long struggled to earn critical praise, but the original 2001 Lara Croft, Tomb Raider remains one of the most commercially successful adaptations of a video game. The reboot introduces a younger, more grounded Lara Croft, abandoning the glamorous, larger-than-life image that defined the earlier films. This version is more vulnerable, determined, and physically believable. She lives a modest life rather than relying on her family's enormous fortune, refusing to accept her inheritance because she cannot let go of the hope that her father is still alive years after his disappearance. Eventually, Lara embraces her destiny after receiving a mysterious Japanese puzzle box left to her in her father's will. While actors like Kristen Scott Thomas provide welcome supporting performances, the biggest issue isn't the action, humor, or drama. The real problem lies with Lara herself. Despite all of her impressive abilities, this version of the character never develops a truly memorable personality. Although it's refreshing to see Lara no longer defined by exaggerated physical features or an aristocratic accent, the film still struggles to give her a unique identity beyond being a capable adventurer. There is specious little to hear still as she prowess in avatar fairy action. It's hard now to escape the understanding that she is actually in a last 30 years video game very notoriously difficult to properly adopt it for big screen, at least in a manner that would satisfy their game original fan. Even when some of those films succeeded at a box office that time, it proved to be fleeting and the repetition of such films flying very quickly. The film is based on Tomb Raider's series, a fictional adventure game featuring a protagonist in the form of young and big-breasted British woman Lara Croft. It took only a few years and fewer titles in the series for Lara Croft to become one of the most popular characters in the gaming world, at a time still dominated by teenage male. As such, it was naturally a 46 example of the gimmick world played with one of the Hollywood's greatest example, Angelina Jolie. The upload began when Law Adventure specialized for finding precious artifact. Ancient tomb across the world finds one such artifact in her home. The artifact was left by her father Lord Richard Craft 15 years ago, shortly before he would disappear. A turn-now artifact inspired talisman that allows his owner to be controlled. Talisman can be used only during a very rare constitution that occur once in a 5,000 years, since constellation is about to occur very soon. Illuminati Sacred Society that wants to be controlled over became interested in Lara. Home is targeted by their mercenaries who steal the artifact. Liars however determined to be find the remaining artifact and to travel to different part of the world to obtain it before Illuminati and DOS prevent a global catastrophe. Lara Croft home writers represent pleasant surprise, but only to those who expected up forced from it. There were reasons for successes, mainly because of director Simone West, whose previously record was not exactly stellar and who gave him body publicity by publicly and quietly via employed MTV style of directing based on rapid cuts and emphasizing on CIA-saturated action scene ad plot and a character alter. Hardly anyone expected much depth for a film based on a video game, a medium that was more premium in late 1990s than is now. The rest of class is mostly solid, specifically Chris Berry, actor famous for playing in old rumor in a popular television series Red Dwarf, and who is here very good in the role of Fowler's butler Hillary. Dan Cake is also seemed to be have fun playing Americana mercenary Alex West, whose character's eyes are the most complex in the film. Bing and Cake are responsible for a few brighter moments that make Lara Croft Tomb Raider so watchable in the end, despite poor review are public to the theater thanks to his starry power in Tomb Raiders. I am pretty sure that over the years I have tried him few time to watch the films and never actually succeeded. However, when going back to Daniela Craig's back catalogue of films that I have eventually watched this full film of thinking back to the video game, actually just like the training part in her garden with a different part to be climbed on rather than the actual game. Animated, the film is not all that great at all, and the time it was certainly made for the teenage boys who adored the character in the game, and certain aspects were tailored at time with Jolie in the leading role. The thing is that it could have actually been a lot more entertaining and interesting. I guess it's some of what we got for action-adventure film in the late 90s and early 90s, making you think of their companion to The Mummy and National Treasure. Lara's father Richard Crowd was long missing and presumed to be dead, but Wendy appeared to her in a dream. This is about to be start of a series of events that she cannot help but be drawn to. The strange clock hidden in the manor is the start of everything. When a man sees photos of the clock and claim that cannot identify it, but it denoted does not take long for it matter to enter her house and attempt to steal it. Everything that happened from this point is part of puzzle which they must crack in order to be revealed the secret of the clock, and it does have some anxiety-inducing moment which has to be plus that it managed to be great in atmosphere, and Julie does her best with a poor role, but it's not an easy one to be for sure. She had a much needed sex appeal that came from the game. I know it feels very surprising that about him, but it really did have a very certain fan base and love from men. D-Cake with his American accent is decent enough and an action role giving a glimpses of what is born would become many years later. Actually did not remember Lane Agana being interior. Jahidra give the first wigs again outing Tom Brady credit Adeliza casting was for Alto at Bullygold, a woman hardly appointed studio in the direction of a real-life actress casting. Angelina Jolie was a SMO and one that started to show that the studio understood what was required to make this adaptation of the blockbusters video game franchise work. Unfortunately, like many video movies, it did not quite translate the way you would draw, but maybe that is not the studio fault. Maybe it is just that Lara Croft's Tomb Raiders is not actually that suited to being a movie. There's little story to her early adventure. It is lot of walking around the same and sun-colored creatures until you stumble across a puzzle. So with little of actual substance coming from the game, and it's not surprising that the studio went with an Indiana Jones ripoff and a poor Omnia added. So we have a heroine who is an archaeologist who trained with a super robot and has a hacker sidekick to attempt to be offered for comic relief. Sees a Panga Illuminati in an attempt to stop them getting some random girlfriend that will make them unstoppable. It is hardly inspiring stuff and is offered nothing new. Julia is very good in all action sequences and plays a convincing adventure from swinging on relaxes to shooting her tween a pista. The less said about her English accent about her, but at least it is not as bad as Daniel Craig's American one. The villain is Game of Thrones Glenn, and he lost nicely into the cookie-cutter British villain that always seemed to be emerged when domination is up for a grab. The set faces are well staged but hardly anything new. Jolie is good at swinging from ropes or a dispatch villain to using her environment to destroy a stone monster climbing up ancient moving relaxes. It is all very semi and hardly exciting even when the attempt was softly began to emerge. It seems soft to Harrison Ford was doing in Connery back in the late 80s. The fact that it's leaded to a sequel as impressive and as video game movies go, it is one of the better ones, but there is not any high accolade. Jolie is great as a kick-ass female, but she's also doing that in a better movie with Salt or Mr. and Mrs. Zoe. Lara Croft better is a decent attempt. What would you do if you looked at Angelina Jolie had a millionaire bank account and could see a magical powered ancient status? Probably be a sexy artist with a less than happy background too. For those who haven't played a video game in the last 20 years, you may have missed the staple of the platform adventure planner Tomb Raider. Its pro-protagonist woman named Lara Croft has a penchant for Saturn and a finding treasure, so it is with Thea's first theatrical vision of that gamma 2001 Lara Croft writer. As is typical for a star, we are going to get straight to the point. Lara Croft is not good, despite the overwhelming irreversible streaking. Julie Lara fails to appeal to anyone other than die-hard fan. Now let's get to achieve it. Capta, I am a die-hard fan. I would had the most amazing silly time watching the movie. When the plot started introducing a standard of mysticism and time travel, as I progressed toward the plot, we jumped from action to be mist to horror back to never-ending action sequences that in awkward sequel tension. I could not help but be amused. I can signal my feeling to any particular scene or sequences when it come to be drawn to it. I just enjoy seeing Lara beating Thea smart right out of her opponent. Call me a feminist. As you may have figured with a diverging element, Bob totally at odds with how to think of this movie. The premise here is that Lara is doing here to be had with a movie villain, Manfred Powell, in a globe-trotting adventure to discover a mystical glow-capable area, following its owner to travel through a tough time. Quite a prize, right? Of course. It's not as simple as a heroine and debating it out among ancient brought to life guardian status. There's a character-building emotional undercurrent running throughout the director Simon West movie. The first revolves around the death of Lara's father, Lord Croft, is that has still a mystery which is eating away at Lara. Some moments are evocative. Little the storyline is presented to us, which is a shame considering Jolie and Rella life father-daughter drama. The other current is more traditional and involves a complicated love story. Last former lover and rival Alex West has joined the frame, trying to solve the mysterious affair the clock for Powell and a secret call to the Illuminati. The attention serves a little purpose, but it does have a comedic moment in the end. The story is not what's important in Lara Croft Tomb Raider. It's really portrayal of a beloved video game hero and sport, and all sexy and smart. This Laurie leaves USA smiling and rooting for her as he jumps from height and battle seemingly impossible Lord Sill is not enough to save the ridiculous story from its own sense of grandeur or from time-altering forces of the universe, whichever. Breaking down a movie like Lara Croft Writer is very easy. It's a bad movie. It features the occasional well-done action scene, and Angelina Jolie is nice to look ahead, but that is all there is to it. I have hear people try and argue that Lara Croft Tomb Raider is a movie too bad that is good, but that is not case. This is not a character that could have been used as a strong female lead in Hollywood. Gavi us this. Don't believe anyone who tells you La Tomb Raider is anything but body. That's all it is. It does not speak to a female empowerment. It is not funny. It is not action-packed. It's a hilarious affair with a plot that is idiotic beyond what any human being should be willing to accept. Lara Croft Writer is a mess of a movie that tries to get by on that idea. Folkling Angelina Jolie with an accident scene thrown into the mix every now and to keep it simple. Avoid this movie, especially if you watch movie looking to actually be entertained. There was a time, as in the mid-90s, when Lara Croft was so engaged in terms of her popularity and media situation. She had managed it to be transcendent the fact she was a fictional video game character and transferred into a mainstream icon. Sadly for her, the subsequent sequel to the original Tomb Raider game gradually ruined a forward momentum generated in that era and a slow downward spiral wooden slither post that featured in the video game. The alien plot from the original Tomb Raider game included the reason for Lara and the bad guys riding the tomb, in this instance starting within an ancient involving planetary alignment. This that brings together the adventure real growth will manufacts. They are clearly structured toward our rabbit fanboy that are climbing into the shower being just one of them. but for the most part if this is Nana Joan for the IPO generation a whistle-stop tower to the relax left by ancient civilization in the story let us not care so much if the history provided there's opportunity for something to explode for and Joe the server of a post-90s action tractor when invariably means that his family's style or substance in that respect it's a turned out to be dismal from the many other action film released during this era there's a lot going on despite the old-fashioned narrative but all the noise and jacking only disguise this is the point that Daniel Craig rocks are pre-born with a painful American accent as Alex he does at least look like he's enjoying himself playing a male version of Lara with less circum it would have been better for him to be use his native accent on a more positive side. Crispy as L's faithful butler and less of unrolled rhymer in a smart sword and Glenn as a villain Manfreda Powell. You can tell he's bad guy because his Binisham dresses entirely in black, excuse of a perfect level of fast-liming charm. Seriously, the man should have been absolutely everything ever made, in hindsight. Perhaps Julie is not the best choice for playing Lara Croft. But then at a time, it's hard to think of anybody else who may have been as suitable to them in the post-reboot era. There are a few more potential actresses to choose from and given no key in Hollywood to report everything, these days, it would be interesting to see how they would approach casting her. No today the film a charm of the bubblegum level of the offensiveness but in the grand history of fascinaments and to be considered as a cult favorite and nothing more and truly a woman who made this movie about watching a Mayo she's a hot woman and she pulls off the role as Lara Croft well in fact she is the best thing in the movie she's a great portraying the character of Lara Croft giving off a great sense of beauty and a grace while showing great boldness and in battle but man was blowing long awaited adaptation of the game disappointing. Do you have a picture a perfect actress play the role and an offer to reward for fans that have been awaiting for this year? I can even forgive the fact that Julie is not even a British Tomb Raider to a full Indiana Jones fan is such a bored adaptations that I don't really know where to start. First of all, the premise is very compared to the plot from the game. Where are the mercenaries? Where are the spices? Where are the top secret location? Where are the loins and tiger? Their area nowhere to be found in this lame version of the game. The fight choreography is dazzling and really exciting to watch, will be honest. The action is great also well. Julie can pull off the action scene well and make them look very believable. It's just a sad state of the film that excitement is very rare in this movie. What are the filmmakers living the action for anyone? When we don't see any action. The big scene are cute very short not giving us enough chance to absorb in an exciting. For example, the status battle in the final. Now, I've executed well and landed to a tolerably degree. This could have been a great finisher, but if failed the status area slow and easily eliminated and are only around for a total of minute and a half. Also I estimated then Lara accidentally freeze this secure status who build for SW expected a long stomp and smash the moment but we got less of it making the sun relatively pointless and all. It seems Simon West did not put much thought into action, too bad because he robs us of seeing a potentially truly great action flick. There is some scene that made it so and corny at this which made me disconnected from the film. For example, the scene where Lara is riding the dog's word in her feet, that was not only chisky and hokey, it was also far-fetched all in all considering how far from the game director Simon West best in tone and pacing. Just take to the game part to action folk. Now that I am also doing a review TV and film based on video game a couple of movie could not be missed the Rider films Lara Croft Homer Rider and Lara Croft Homer Rider the Cattle Life some of the earliest live action video game movies order number 7 and 9 respectively going by Wikipedia. It makes sense that a Tomb Raider movie cameo to be early. The series was one of the most popular game series in the late 90s early 2000s after all. While I know I count myself as a Tomb Raider fan, I never watched these films before. The most I saw were some previous and half seen once a while zapping channel. The assist questions was Angelina Jolie descending from the roof shooting at body guys with those twin pistol of her. What surprises me is that it was quite a struggle to guide this movie to the silver screen. The second play was worked on by 5 different writers before director Simon West came on board. He took over the project when the original director got booted, which might have been a warning. Wes himself got a sack during post-production, and his original 130-minute cut was thrown in the bin, only to be very hard to do so many shoots. That must have been quite a girl, and it's not all folk. The funding of the film may or may not have come from a communism or German and British, and a text came involving tax deduction and a reply, so yeah, there's that too, I guess. And with all further ado, so let's talk about nearly 25 years old original writers, a movie training Angelina Jolie, and see what this film is all about. Mala Isa woken by a ticking sound, as she finds that a clock hidden in the secret room has suddenly sparring into action, hitting here by a missing father. The clock is supposedly connected to an ancient and a powerful triangle artifact. Hoping to learn what truly happened to her father, Lara sets out on a journey that's bringing her from Cambodia to Siberia to uncover both pieces of the triangle. But of course, Lara is not the only one looking for a triangle. Her quest for answer turns into racing against a clock to keep his power out of the hands of some very nefarious people. The plot here is pretty standard for an action-adventure film. An ancient artifact hidden in the places, a secret society bent on using said artifact affordable. Also check a father who went missing under suspicious circumstances. Yet another check. The story writing is not the greatest, but I would not call a bad teacher. Serviceable, does the job. Is predictably and bad she is, and they push far into the sexy Lara, but he never found a film crying on boring. It does exactly what the advert does, be a breezy action-adventure movie without many imbecile. You will notice this is a beam editing, which I favor quick cuts and an end scene also as soon as possible, and in the character. Most of our cast, including Lara, lacks that in meaningful arc. Lara certainly is not someone to mess with. She is a capable woman, and Angelina Jolie definitely carries a film. If you're looking for more personality, for example, you will be left disappointed. There's this attempt at a romance between her and a fellow artist that feels superficial. More like a power device for the conclusion than an actual relationship. Speaking of Angelina Jolie, I always known her as a big movie star. I was surprised to be learned during my research that Homer writer is so widely considered to be a film that turned her into that movie star. This little factor made me even more interested to see this movie. There has to be a very good reason why Tom Better was the flick that led to be her big breakthrough, right? Well, as you had probably already guessed, if there's a reason one I did not see it, yes. And Anna puts in a solid performances, and she can do action and do it convincingly. You just don't think she does anything noteworthy. It's a very much a what you see what you get performances when we do muster, and that I am on display of fast outside character are forgotten by or only serve as moving part. Production is the only reason I remember them is because of director. Maybe in 2001 Angelina Jolie and her father John also once again father Richard made known a face, but 20 years later we have a load of more recognizable faces. Is here Daniel James known has that fellow artist and a romantic interest Lena's S, and Guy Vanekisserjmer has his first movie here. Also Lara's faithful brother. Okay, understand that Red Dwarf is not on the same level as James Bond or Game of Thrones, but I like it. I did not expect them to be sure, but I was pleasantly surprised when Thea did. This may or may not have been the result of that text game I was talking about earlier. One of them went at some UK filming and British actor to be in the film. Once again I discussed that these are those of Dia but not on Califet to really dig into, regardless of how it came together. This casting worked well. They all turned into good performances, doing the best without writer by Thea numbers the script they were given. Plus it gives a film more star power these days. It is not a great film, but it contain more than a few entertaining bits. It's good to behold self together and its potential, but every few minutes there is something that pleases. There is not much that is actively awful, but plenty that manicure. Essentially, this is a perfect film for Sunday afternoon in a forgiving mode. Despite the short of the Sakurai visibly puts in a lot of effort to be played largely and not a need for them to do anything further to an extent that means much so far the cast is wasted. Len Greyaduna deserves much better than what you get. On the other hand, it is that debatably how much they all need to do. This is a film with low ambition to be honest and wilder to make something innovative, and the exciting director Simon who simply is not that interested. That is frustrating because we know what is he capable of far better. His 1997 action film Go On Era is busy, loud and ridiculously over the top, and if a medium of that film's energy and self-awareness had been applied here, Tom Ryder would have repoped it again. Instead it feels by the strange state bit shadow as Seventh Sperry box of the Lost Ark is still very much the high watermark of the archetypal adventure. Every film of this kind a default per film like Stephen Some redeeming 1999 Wish Dead Tom Ryder who year the solution was to stay well within the limit of Ryder's shadow and play heavily on nostalgia. In the case of Tom Ryder there's immediately a clear desire to be struggle beyond the shadow and offer something aggressively new. The problem is that no one on the production seems to have all the idea what the new element is. The film is set in the present for sure, but still is a royal temple within half an hour or so fighting the supernatural. Julie was born to play Croft as surely as Boba Destiny was pixelated blumber. Mario and Jolie not just looked apart. Ultimate fat training had given her love of psychic in the sport. Perhaps she equates herself well in the furious fight scene and friend action sets. Unfortunately a kick-ass falling still and horror like a dead heat and is a race to not a good movie. Even when Engine is discovered, it takes a while to get into care, and with the leader gradually roaring around London on a motorbike, imagine action a room and refly bait at large offices. The impression is that we are in far adventure all over again. Is not that bad, of course. Back at the range, Lee surprised by a cat bad but follows the blazing a gun battle with a protagonist bringing her around a West Camber. It's as good as summer, but a film had and eye candy sooner becomes predictable. Exotic locations Cambodia, West Iceland are present and correct, and there is a half-headed strawberry romance between Jolie and Daniela Craig's verbal adventure. You may be a bad guy, Lan can see us by absence is a narrative spark, but I cannot have to be engrossed with you. Nurse Ave Laura, is there anyone to give a damn about? It's really obvious from the outset that N's villain glam is no macho faller and is cute adversarial dynamic and engendered the traditional sharing and booming. Surely a staple of the Chandler rant. They let Angelina Jolie keep doing things after this movie. It is good for her. The movie opened with Lara Croft shooting a big robot. She has a comedic assistant that makes a robot, I guess, or whatever. Daniel Craig and Ag's dad are actually in a movie as well. Poor choices all around. Hearts are worn and broken. It's a video game movie. It's not good. I think there is like a time travel on it. She fires a sick harmed status at one point. Classic Raider of none of this is area important. You know what is important? The bees are vanishingly at an alarming rate. You guys, there is Bumblebee that is on the endangered spaces. All thessy pests we are using them, making them theta loss and unstop. So you know theta happen to us if the bees die. You guys, we die. We need those little champion. Now you may be thinking to a horse red, but what can you do it? Help out a poor bee that are always flying around keeping us alive without asking for anything in return. Yourself will not have the answer you seek because you are not even thinking about a beast before I brought it up. You only care about yourself. Drinks out of your bees. Bees have you thirst. Putting a little saucer of water in your garden milk keep man hydrated. The best look a little less and like they have you been taking call in a call center to a little vodka and take the edge of Bessa or two. Let the bees know you appreciate them more often than not. We don't even say thank for the honey and also helping the continue the horror show that is human existence to the beast, which can really load in more life. We only give them attention when they is sitting as they were kind of presented. Does that said what you would recommend doing is the next time you see a bee in your garden, you hop in your car driving it down to the Hallmark store and you get that bee a card. It doesn't have to be an expensive card. Something simple and tasteful work fine. Remember, bee is love a bomb, so if you find a card that says something like bee all day, you can be bet it will knock the socks up. If you don't have money for card, Simply walking outside every 15 minutes and gaining great job will also work. Continue this practice. Sleep into Thea night, as your neighbor may have fallen asleep and forgotten to tank the messenger. Healing will serve as a helpful and reminder. Give bees. I don't think you need to be explained to you now how to hug a bee. We are adult, just be careful because they are little falls and it's easy to take their little bread away with your weak stronger. Stop using a pesticide on your garden plant. Do you use a pesticide and wish to keep Thusia tomato red and shining cool mad? That's awesome. You know what's not so awesome? Being a big specialist. No like over here. Beyond food. Dad's camera ready and a cast to feed the horses of the little. How do you dare sleep at night? Better questions. Once me and people like me save all the beasts and they overrun your planet, what will you say? What you stand trial for? You're a crime vibe tribunal. With how great your cucumber looked, will you look into the compound eyes of your family? Will you confess your son? What if you carry it to be heaven and God is a biggle? What use can mean, as I am sure we are all aware. There are countless spell inventions out here that can change your form. There's one particular that originated from the wishes of self. I would recommend using this one because it's only cause for Jenna where most call for at least 20. I can't tell you the express spell since this idea from the teeth. A lot of the other element change from person to be person. You just need to be asked your own reflection in the mirror for the recipe when the blood moon is high in the sky and the yellow bird in the tree outside is final note. By the end of the ritual you will pop like a balloon and a swarm of bees will be left in your stead. You all bees know and there are few creature nobler. Lastly decided to revisit the term bread, the first guilty prayer of mine. I watched the movie via Blu-ray, the UK region free release from Paramount. It contains several extras where on the original DVD release back in that day. It's a shame there's no new extra, but that because they included extra. Love Life does not contain extras at all, which seems odd because they would have been included the original DVD extras also. Well, a contain of Ling's extra audio, a commentary by director Simon Vale digging into the Tomb Raider featuring the crafting, a lot of craft featuring the movie stars Angelina Jolie, Lane Green, Daniel Cake. I remember when this was to come out at a cinema. I had a choice of seeing this is old Jurassic Park tree, so I chose Jurassic Park tree and author, and all the time I was glad that I did, especially after I said it took a willy for me to be fully appreciated it. It's not a perfect movie. In fact, it's not necessarily a good film, but it's a fun film. It has very little going on via dialogue, even plot-wise it's not very deep, but it's highly entertaining and that's the main thing. It's so easy to be just wish your brain off and let your movie take you in. If it's fast parody, Angelina Jolie was born to play the role that just looked apart, especially considering how the character looked like back in that day. There is some great accent sequences, a good amount of fast special effects still hold up pretty well, and I think I enjoy more with every watch. It contain moderate volume. 32 out of 3. He won't kill her, about she will hang dongs from hell like nobody's business, and she has huge drags of land. She's essentially Indiana Jones lost a sister, but her PS come back to behind her as clues her order. Julia's real life order led for her to be found a comfortable out. You see, there's a shared group of reconspirators who have been awaiting 5 year for a conjunction of all land as well as a solar eclipse. The premiere war with this film was a casting good Jolie pull of live action, a Lara accent and all. Well, here's a good news, she doesn't shed the action the board of kicking and British accent. The awards out there, but Dad and his occasional quip from our good trailer are all the film has going, because everything else, every brief trace of fun or action, is a life sucked out or wailed by a just plain topic plot. Don't get me wrong, I like a mindless action as much as the next caffeine track, but this film does not just want you to turn your brain, it wants you rock kick in your neighbor backyard swimming pool. In fact, based on the character set up for us in the first half of the flip film, the second half of film just flashes should not even take place. Character motives are inconsistent, and I hate myself for saying it. But a gracious stop seeing a high point of the pieces. Can it really be that bad? Well, yeah. There are two X and a sequence S with large size puzzle that must be figured out in exactly the right way, and I can say for him is a cool enough but play out in the silliest way. See if you are gagging with me that a huge model of Atlas of the solar system is at what looked to be a very fun action flick is nothing but unimpressive. Notice that Thea Killer's robot name is Simon and Thea Evil Tom Rider's name is West. Take Thea Cleo as to the true source of evil nothing and stay away, and for God's sake why was a lion you are to nurse Adivina once much less multiple time he is a she ws like letter she handguns for a hell like nobody's business and she hoss a huge dragon off land. She's essentially Indiana Jones' lost sister but her pasta come back to be Hunter as Angelina Jolie's real life led for how to be fine come true. You see there's a shadowy group of conspiration who have been awaiting 5,000 years for a construction of all 9 planets as well as solar eclipses. It's all the same that ancient advances can be found and used for good or evil. The job primary worm was the casting Julia pull of action lent and all. Well as a good news, she does it in spirited during the board. The bird kicking and the British accent the board is Alder Bard and the occasional quip from over good a trailer are all the films as going in. I'm going to work backward and comparing it to be as a movie since I cite first but this one is a lot more cover. Compare shooting a robot in a tom on a wire to wrestling and riding a bike for the opening scene. 2018 was okay, in fact, I would say it's either as good as a one just because of the action or it's a better. I even gave him the same amount of star. I love a Weekender as Lara and you like Jolie as Lara even if it would be cool to see Olivia as well or movies but each does good with their respective version. The characters compared to Bigagan the movies are pretty hated but I would not go as far as to say it's the worst video game movie. I saw it was sitting between a 5.5 and 5.9 out of 10. I would agree with that. That's an execution, but it's pretty dated. Easier to tell where Double Shirt goes and does not go. The scientist character Bryce also cash faces bugger really annoying Buddha really cheesy, whether you like it or not. But Storm Rider that's just not always a good thing about horror is to be it all play out of the Samia way. I think there's a small chance you can make it work but chances are slim nonetheless and where do they get end of the world so the line Illumination report lines from the game are guilty of this. I'm just saying it matter more here because you are not actually playing Ida J. I'm just saying it matter more here because you are not actually playing Ida. There are few things that you could cite being a lawyer to be game when Ida does not have to be it does know to translate well and I don't think Tomb Raider over will unless they change it. Indiana Jones has some pretty obscure stuff and they make it work. Now Thea ending. Let me start by saying Thea villain is really dumb. Both movies have that in common but taking a knife and flipping it around in them does not mean that a force goes away. You're just going to eat with a hilt that would end up blood. So just kind of happen in the sense I compared Cambodia looked like it was a big cure for the final battle. I was like alright that was then I realized that it was only halfway through. Luckily Thea pace picks up so it does not drag after that just caught me off guard. It's better to have an exploring multiple dome. Anyway, it even said that Thea were 2 pieces. But I just assumed at o'clock was one of them and other only was in the temple. Goes to Kumia and meets a random monk, you know. My father goes to the Russia. Little girl talks about her father as one of those remind you that she had a father every 5 minutes and everybody knew him. Thea explained that he made his last search before his death but still it's Thea flashbacks they used to be show him area very where they show the frame rate on noted the footage the frame rate I actually thought something was wrong with it but then I realized that it was only when John was on screen. I forget how fun it is to just jump up and get on as Lara because you can't run in this game so find convenient ways to bounce around. I have here all this score recorded to be played. I even saw the movie based on it was not fun but luckily actually being in a moment and experiencing Ida better than some of the sequences of the movie and here the story is actually a little different here. It's a shame nobody murdered an Alicia face or a thought. It's produced of his time for sure, and the complaint they have about it as franchises it need to be make it about end of the world. But then he started thinking of source material in the zone in a way kind of shows that a maybe not a word whole world, but it never really seemed that way to me when I am watching it, because that's never really his mission. Is just to get a artifact and put in a museum. Maybe that's where this series goes every sometime, is that it styles into much with Lara herself. My mom was after his and my dad was after this villain Isa trying to get it. Maybe she's a hero. Maybe she's not, but see a circumstantial decision that she make when faced with it, rather than judging people don't to keep it out of other hand. The movie was about he here dad. This one is not start from being about raving on old TV show Buddha discovering him goes home but quickly asleep when the ships crashes. I know this was considered Lara's beginning with her first journey, but I did not realize this is something for here a character too. I am not sure how to feel about it, because it is tries to make Ida seem as she's never seen action and Isa more or less bling just with she's Rita in the book, a guy frightened and running around trying to find her friend Toa help her and get her out of this mess. Part of me would say that's logical, Buddha, the other part would say that Lara would not beg. It's not an escape road for her. Is a journey and adventure, and the other part to make me argue what kind of training here a father gave you to show whether she was ready for this or not. She even talks of it. It is not in a nicely cinematic tone, so I can complain too much, which is not her first journey according to the logs you pick up, but it's on Thea Wiki, but it's going to get itself anyway because Elle is essentially everyone's hero as she's the survivor and all, but it goes far. Oh, I am a beauty. I can't show her this. I wish I was more like you. She grew from it, but I just was not feeling it. There are good sea puns, but all in all, I was not impressed with a story either. Granted, I am not a fan of fancy stuff, as is usually it was a cult all along type of thing. Why there is so many other things Yoko Kajo that Buta actually start are promising, with a triangle strap up with Himiko the queen of bringing here and Jidosa in, but Larrick that mates are usually a source from to some capacity, and it suggests burns of storm that gather round that area. They should be used theta element to try and prove what's fact and a worse fiction, but it easily divide back into the unknown. It was real after all. We should have been never scum hearing it. That only changes her character, because if she's having such a horrible time here and only wants out, then why does she keep going on these expenditures afterward? In fact, they make the ending Sheza laughing to her and seeing the stories are more meat, and says how she's finally come to blame him, and after her fakia journey she's not going home. Sheza jumping straight into the another adventure to keep the Adeline swamping to a decay. I understand and like Thesa poem with a face shadow her so in Thesa game and infatuated with her things despite everyone telling her that it area not real, but she does not let go contrary to her initial opinion in Thesa game. The way they framed just could have been a little nicer, like where did she look like was having fun? As far as the same gameplay they built on that theta mechanic from under which I think got a really good by the time Shadow come out and you were able to be disguised yourself in mud. I was actually impressed with how such from Shadow was actually already in here. But the Gamia play does not really start up the Sammy, or should it really? It had a 2-game as to build on that system, and it did. Ida does not make it seem bones or anything but better. The tombs are fun because they were a nice change of pace, but they leave more to be desired. They seem more likely to be introduced. Game physics but are totally optional, and most don't have any bearing on the core gameplay anyway. There are just puzzle when you feel like the puzzle should have been a part of that code to begin with. The SATA pieces feel same after a while because you do cross a plan, but then it turned a plan and his helicopter, which most of those makes sense in the context of the story. But then there is a water slide and a building is falling apart around you. It start to seem like it's wrapping itself. Always surprises me how this was so well recorded when Uncharted was already out traces with a better story. I only ever played this and Tomb Raider Legend in the series. What brought me to this one was a 3D trailer. You need to be there to understand this one. No, they like Legend. Yes, you can drive a frog lift. I mean, what's not to be like? I am surprised it's not more like, to be honest. I remember being in the theater and seeing commercial of this showing up the Dolby Digital Audio, and then it got nominated for a Game Award for it, so I really try to pay attention to it. It's kind of native. One of the cool things about is that you can really immerse yourself and change your dialogue to different language when spoken to people of different small and only uses future term, but you really need in fact the whole thing is impress you inside for culture, and it can really appreciate that. I don't want to be blaming the other two in the trilogy because the snow environment and Rise is not really grabbed me in the first one. Just look it up. It does some cool sad faces and a pic. I still kind of stand by that, but I'm glad I played this one. I mean, if you understand right on the last, so this should be the best one, right? This is not necessarily a good or bad thing, but to make a point of telling you, just comment to the Gamia shares. One thing I did actually want to say what was in the previous game was Commander. I have a feeling for exploring a character's roses. Now whenever I play another adventure game, for some reason you compare it to this event, it's not a fish to do some of the stuff. I love the platforming and figuring out where to go with a white marker, which you can turn on and up, then getting new item to be man better. You can get your ability so she does not sleep, which is handy, but I never got it because I never wanted it. The side quests are actually fun. One of the game's greatest strengths is how much there's to do. When you stop and look back at everything you've completed, you realize just how much content the game offers. The map makes exploration easy by clearly highlighting points of interest, so you're never forced to hunt endlessly for objectives. Everything feels naturally placed, making exploration enjoyable rather than a chore. I bought this game the year it was released, and it's funny that I'm only reviewing it now. It's a game I've thought about often over the years, even though I've never actually finished it. I reached the final stages, but one particular main mission completely put me off, so I stopped playing and never returned. Even so, I've spent countless hours with the game, so I feel confident sharing my thoughts. The gameplay is easily the biggest highlight. It's immersive, rewarding, and consistently fun. The story, on the other hand, is fairly standard. It doesn't introduce many fresh ideas, but it does feature Lara and her relationship with her father and other important characters in a meaningful way. Watching characters learn through experience instead of being handed every answer helps make them feel more believable, and it gives you a reason to care about their journey. The characters are enjoyable overall, and aside from a few minor glitches and the occasional awkward enemy behavior, there isn't much to complain about. Those issues are small enough that they don't take away from the experience. In the end, I'd give the game an 8 out of 10, possibly even an 8.5. It's an underrated adventure that I think more people should give a chance. The adventure begins with Lara Croft completing a training exercise in her mansion. It's a great introduction to the controls and lets players get comfortable with movement, combat, and exploration. Before long, the story shifts toward a much larger mystery. Lara's father, Lord Croft, disappeared years ago, and a rare planetary alignment is fast approaching. This alignment is tied to an ancient artifact known as the Triangle of Light, a powerful relic that has become the target of the Illuminati. While searching through her family estate, Lara discovers a mysterious clock hidden beneath the staircase by her father. This clock contains the key to finding the first fragment of the artifact. Along the way, she crosses paths with Alex West and Manfred Powell, both of whom are determined to obtain the relic for their own purposes. Progressing through Tomb Raider requires quick reflexes, precise platforming, and good timing. There are plenty of close calls throughout Lara's dangerous journey, especially inside the massive Croft Manor and the ancient ruins she explores. The Illuminati are desperate to recover the mysterious clock and won't hesitate to send heavily armed forces after her. Fortunately, Lara is more than capable of defending herself, although there are moments when even she is forced to retreat against overwhelming odds. Guided by her instincts and clues left behind by her father, Lara uncovers the location of the first fragment. Powell and his men arrive as well, only to fall victim to the ancient traps protecting the ruins. Lara eventually retrieves the fragment, but not before facing a terrifying stone guardian that is nearly immune to bullets. After a tense battle and a daring escape, she secures the artifact and continues her mission. Later, Lara joins forces with Alex West in hopes of striking a deal. He possesses the clock, while she has the fragment, giving both sides something the other needs. Their uneasy partnership pushes the story forward while leading to even greater adventures filled with hidden treasures, dangerous enemies, and challenging levels. Watching the film adaptation after playing the game is an interesting experience. One immediate improvement is seeing Lara Croft brought to life with far better visuals than the pixelated game model of the time. Physically, Angelina Jolie is an excellent choice for Lara Croft. She certainly looks the part, but beyond her appearance, the performance doesn't always capture the character's charm, confidence, and adventurous spirit. At times, Jolie seems surprisingly uninterested, and some of the action scenes lose their impact when viewed in broad daylight. That said, the opening action sequence is genuinely exciting and easily one of the movie's strongest moments. Unfortunately, the story quickly becomes less engaging. The film borrows heavily from familiar adventure movies, particularly Indiana Jones, with its ancient artifacts, secret societies, and world-ending mysteries. Instead of feeling inspired, it often feels like a collection of borrowed ideas stitched together. As the story progresses, random supernatural elements begin appearing with little explanation. Stone statues suddenly come to life, strange magical events occur, and the plot becomes increasingly difficult to follow. While the visual effects are entertaining, many of these moments exist simply because they look impressive rather than because they serve the story. Ironically, the movie mostly reminded me how much I wanted another Indiana Jones adventure. Tomb Raider has all the ingredients for an exciting treasure hunting film, but it never fully captures the charm or excitement of its biggest inspiration. The story follows Lara Croft after the death of her father, as she sets out to fulfill his final mission. Blending fantasy, science fiction, and action, the film centers on a rare planetary alignment that occurs once every 5,000 years. During this event, the two halves of an ancient triangle can be reunited, granting unimaginable power. Unfortunately, one half of the artifact has already fallen into the wrong hands, forcing Lara into a race against time to stop the Illuminati from controlling its power. One aspect that stands out is the variety of accents throughout the film. Angelina Jolie adopts a British accent for Lara Croft, and while it feels a little distracting at first, it's something you eventually get used to. Then Daniel Craig appears with an accent that seems to drift toward American, making things even more inconsistent. Neither performance is ruined by it, but the changing accents can occasionally pull you out of the experience. It wasn't a great performance. Every time he spoke, it became distracting and honestly started to irritate me. I never really understood why his character needed to have an American accent or if that was even the intention. Angelina Jolie's natural British accent felt far more convincing, while Daniel Craig's accent never quite worked. Fortunately, he doesn't have a huge amount of dialogue, so it doesn't become overwhelming. Tomb Raider delivers exactly what you'd expect from an early 2000s action adventure, packed with explosive set pieces and fast-paced action. Considering its age, the visual effects hold up better than I expected. We've become used to today's stunning CGI, so I expected the graphics to look much worse. They're certainly not groundbreaking by modern standards, but they're far from terrible and never distract from the overall experience. The action sequences are entertaining from start to finish. It's hard not to enjoy watching a well-known action star like Angelina Jolie take center stage, and the film offers plenty of exciting moments that let you switch off, relax, and escape reality for a while. Overall, I enjoyed the film. It's an entertaining escape that knows exactly what it wants to be. Aside from a few unconvincing accents, there's very little to complain about. If you're looking for a fun, action-packed adventure with plenty of excitement, this movie is an enjoyable watch.